Hello and welcome to the big Sunday show. We're going to have a breakdown of all the weekend games. Game week 1, good to be back. It's been a long summer, I would say, after a very disappointing season. So we're going to do that. First of all, I would like to welcome an amazing panel. I'm going to try not to butcher your name, Aisha. I'll do it. I'll butcher it all the way through the show, so you can correct me. Aisha, welcome.
Aisha, yeah.
Aisha. We've got Mark and we've got David. Big up, guys. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Nice win to start the game week 1 off in, and obviously some of you guys were at the game, so we'd like to hear about that. And big tribute to Super Kevin Campbell, which is a lovely tribute by the club. Well justified and brilliant. I'm going to drop in, just before we go into it, I'm going to drop you guys a horrible question. And it is a very nasty question, but I don't expect an answer at the beginning of the podcast. We'll leave it until we speak about Arsenal's game, and then you could give your answer. One of my friends done this to me last night, and I was on the spot and I could not answer it. It was so difficult. So the question is, in the Emirates era, who named 3 players that were undervalued by the fans or underappreciated by the fans? So that's your question. You've got the whole entire podcast to think about it and give your answers. But it's a nasty question, if I'm being honest. So we'll crack on and go straight into Friday night football. Mm-hmm. Man United against Fulham. The only surprise for me it was Ten Hag was still in the dugout, if I'm being perfectly honest. But with that, Isha, do you want to go first? What was your take on it?
It was boring, so for a start. And I was really torn because, like, I part of me wanted Fulham to lose for obvious reasons, right? But on the other hand, no Arsenal supporter really should be supporting Man United. So it was a bit of I watched it and I did think it was a bit of a flat start to the season. It was a very strange fixture for the start of the season. And, without going, I don't know if it was just me, right? And because, I love to analyse things. I'm a history teacher, so I will analyse everything. I didn't think Smith Rowe looked very happy. And I don't know if that was just me. But I don't know if we're going to get into the whole talking about him sort of thing in the rest of the show or whatever. But I felt like he went to a club to play. And he didn't really want to leave. I think if he had his opportunity of going to another club and playing at Arsenal, there wouldn't have even been an option. And I didn't really feel like he made a massive impact. But I also thought Man United were incredibly flat. I mean, my husband was watching it and I was coming in and out of the room and doing other things. And I just felt, wow, this is a really boring game. So I don't know if that's what I felt. It was very flat. I didn't think anyone was really performing incredibly well. It was just a really weird start to the season.
It was. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, completely agree. It was like a type of game where nothing really happened until the goal at the end. United did have a few chances. Bruno probably should have scored twice.
Oh, the Rashford goal. That was, when that happened, I texted my brother and I was like, what is going on? And he replied with one word, awful. Like it was that was that game. That just goes to show how boring it is if that's the highlight of the game, really, I suppose.
Yeah. As I said, nothing really happened, and then United scored with a cross that was mishit and kind of hit off the striker and went in. So look, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot to fear from Old Trafford this season, but it's very early days, obviously. But they haven't evolved a hell of a lot from what we saw last season, from what I've seen.
I would agree with that. David, what was your take, bro?
Unfortunately, I was out Friday night for a meal, and I did actually want to.
Yeah, I know. I did it. There's no "un" at the start of that. You meant to say "fortunately."
I actually did want to watch the game, actually, so I was quite disappointed missing it. But then, following day, a mate of mine told me it was terrible, and Man U were basically Man U again, being they were poor and like Fulham had a few chances. I think was it someone who should have passed to Iwobi, but it was but I think Maguire got in the way, didn't he? It's good defending to be fair, but so I've seen.
It wasn't good defending, David. If you've seen it, it was horrendous.
Terrible attacking,
honestly, it was really bad attacking.
But he won't mind, would he?
Yeah. So as Xerxes pops up with a lucky 86 minutes winner, which was it was lucky. Mark broke that down perfectly. I want to touch on a couple of things. Martinez, I hate this guy. I really hate him. However, what was your take on him? If you like him or you hate him, you've got to appreciate he is a good defender.
He makes them a lot better. He does.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's because the drop off to the guy behind him is so big or he's actually just very good. But he's hugely important for them. I know United fans rate him extremely highly. So, yeah, look, he is hugely important. He's very aggressive defender, which can bring its own problems, but he's absolutely pivotal to Man United because what's behind him is not up to a hell of a lot. They're going to the likes of Lindelof or someone like that. Compared to him, it's just or Johnny Evans who came on the other night. The drop off is just immense. So he's absolutely vital to any hopes United have of making top four. He's going to have to play 30 plus games, I think.
Well, who else have they got in the back?
Yeah,
Maguire.
Who I believe their own fans were chanting, Harry Maguire, your defence is effing dire. So I don't think he's got. There's not much going on, is there? They just have to try and push up front and hope for the best, which, as we saw, isn't really happening.
If he gets injured, my take. Sorry, David, do you want to come through?
Yeah, that's fine. I was just listening. Obviously, like I say, I missed the game. I've only seen like 5-minute clips, so I can't really say too much on that game.
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, slightly, I do want to touch on it. Obviously, I was going to touch on it. Fulham's ex-Arsenal players. Your takes on Leno, Iwobi, and obviously Yesar.
Well, I said what I think about Emil. I respect him for the fact that I think he didn't want to sit on the bench. Like he could have, like how many players have we seen in the Premier League? They go to clubs like City and whatever because they're quite happy to sit on the bench for X amount of money. He's obviously not a player that likes to sit. He wants to play. But it was really, I don't know. Maybe I'm psychoanalyzing it too much, but I just didn't think he looked very happy. I know he's quite a stoic player anyway, but I didn't think he looked very happy. You know, I think, like I said before, I think if he had his option and he was given more, even if he was promised 50% of the games this season, I still think he would have stayed with us.
Yeah, agreed. I just think he saw no way in at Arsenal, and was probably told, to be honest, that your chances here are going to be extremely limited. I thought he didn't influence the game at all on Friday night, to be honest.
No.
Bits and pieces here and there, but nothing to write home about. Iwobi similarly didn't really feature. Leno made a couple of good saves, but you could also see why Arteta moved on from him. There was one error, particularly in the first half, when the ball was played back to him. He kicked it straight to a Man United player. Now, not in Cambridge, I think United butchered the chance, but when the ball's at his feet, you can see why Arteta just took one look and said, we need to move on. They're the three. Yeah.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, David.
I was just saying I was gutted to see Smith Rowe leave. Loved the player, but unfortunately, it looks like Arteta. Well, we know that now. Arteta just doesn't see him as a squad player, and he does. And he did want him to. And he does need minutes because he's just too quality. He's just too good. I mean, it's only a few years ago he was in an England squad, and I think he scored. Didn't he score in an away game for England?
I
mean, it just. I was like a Alex Haleb player fan. I don't know if you remember him, Matt Ivory. Not many players, not many people seem to like him, but I loved him, and it just reminds me of him, and a bit like Rosicky as well. And like I say, I was a big fan, and absolutely gutted. But It's, he needs to play. So pleased for him. So
I was quite
hopefully-
surprised. I was quite surprised when they did let him slide and not play as much, because if you remember the Amazon series All or Nothing that came out, I remember watching that, and I remember thinking to myself, this team's got something now. Like, that was before we've had the couple of runs we've had the last couple of seasons where we've been consistently finishing where there was something in that club, there was something in that team that he was building. And if you go back and watch it, Smith Rowe working in conjunction with Saka, it was a perfect combination that looked like it was developing and maturing, and then it just didn't. And to me, it was really sad, because you had two players there have come up the academy together, and really the natural thing would have been for them to work incredibly well as a team, and they did work incredibly well as a team. So, but obviously we only see the 90 minutes that we see. We don't really get to see, and we've not got a fly on the wall documentary for every single season. So and I think this is where people are quite unfair to Arteta. I think that they don't realise that he's obviously seeing training, and he's obviously seeing things going on that we're not seeing on the 90 minutes once a fortnight or whatever. And he obviously didn't see him developing in the way he wanted him to develop. So again, I just think, you know what, he's a professional, fair play to him. He went, and you know what, I think he went to Fulham as well. He doesn't have to move, does he? All his friends that are at Arsenal, we can still stay friends with at Arsenal. He's probably still spending his social time with them because they're only around the corner. So I that's why I think he went because he wanted to play. He didn't go for anything else.
He's quite injury. He's been injury prone as well the last few years. Even when Emery was there, I think he was quite injury prone. So maybe that's to do with it as well. And I mean, like you say, but it's a shame, especially when they're homegrown as well. That annoys me, especially when they're good and they're homegrown.
100%. The last bit I want to touch on, which is a very positive part of the Man United Fulham game, was Garnacho's miss. Do you want to? We have to touch on it. We do have to touch on it.
It was easier to score. Like, let's be honest, it was easier to score than what he actually did. Long may it continue. Again, I think Garnacho, even though he did miss, I think he is going to end this season. Again, the drop off from him to what's behind him, enormous. They have to pick Ahmad or someone like that for 4, 5, 6, 7 games. They're going to have no cutting edge whatsoever. So he is going to be an extremely important player for them. I think the only is because he's late back from the Copa America. Other than that, he'd be playing and be featuring fairly heavily, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Anything added off to that, or are you just happy with that? We'll move on to the Ipswich-Liverpool game, Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. First point before we go into the result, Mari Hutchison, that was the first time I've actually seen him play. I don't know what you guys thought of him.
This is the first game. I won't be able to probably comment much on this one because I was travelling to the Emirates when this was on.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So and believe it or not, I think it was the first game on Match of the Day yesterday, and I was actually filming a little video for my own channel while that was on, so I haven't even seen
it.
I haven't even seen the highlight.
No, that's all right.
Fill me in.
Yeah. Matt, did you watch it?
Watched the first kind of 60 minutes or so, and then I had to head to the ground. Ipswich caused them a few problems in the first half. Nothing that'd make Liverpool panic or anything, but a couple of problems. Did a good chance from a corner. Hutchinson on the break then had a chance that it was a very simple save for Alisson, don't get me wrong. Look, Liverpool after half-time upped the tempo and Ipswich couldn't really live with them. 2 kind of quick fire goals, one from Jota and one from Salah, and that was kind of game over. The pass from Trent Alexander-Arnold to free Salah for that first goal by Jota was incredible, to be fair. So, look, again, I think it's going to take teams time to get up to speed. I think a lot of teams have had a very, very short pre-season because of the competitions during the summer. So it'll take, like, I don't think we were overly impressive. Watch City today. Don't think they were overly impressive. They won comfortably, but they didn't astound me or amaze me. And same with Liverpool, same with Man United. I think it's going to take. Now, unfortunately, we get 3 games and then we have another international break. Don't ask me why, but that's the calendar. So I think you could be looking possibly into October, maybe before teams actually start finding their feet and actually finding their best form. I think the first few weeks of the season, it's just going to be about picking up points, and we'll worry about performances as we go, because no team to me looks absolutely on it yet, and I don't think they will be. Definitely not before this first international break anyways.
I think you're right. And I also think, though, this is where the mentality of the Premier League has kind of changed as well, because in the old days, I remember being a kid, and the first couple of games of the season were always the games that you could like get tickets for, because a lot of people were either like coming back from holiday, or they had the attitude of, these first couple of games don't matter, like just flog them to a tout or flog them to your family. But when we were walking out of the ground yesterday, my brother and I were having the conversation that don't happen anymore. Like, you have to consistently get these wins, like even from the very first game of the season. I mean, I remember when we lost to West Ham last season, and people were going, it doesn't matter, it's really early on, like, it's the Christmas blip. And I'm thinking, these are the points that are going to bite you on the backside. Like, don't have that attitude. So yeah,
completely agree.
David, did you watch a game? David?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you, bro. Did you watch a game?
Yeah. I didn't know. I was in a Totterton yesterday, and I had this TV. I couldn't see it, basically, so I didn't. But I watched the match of the day.
Right. I'll give. I watched it. So I watched it. So I'll give a quick rundown. Ipswich were pretty decent. The first half, I would say, they were throwing putting their bodies on the line. Where Liverpool were taking white shots, etc. Liverpool looked bad from Trent Alexander and Andy Robertson, in my opinion, at defending. There was a couple of balls that came through, and I believe if they continue that and they come up against Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea's, Man City, I think they will suffer massively. So Salah put the ball through, Jota finished. They honestly did cut Ipswich wide open, and Murgy summed that bit up brilliantly. 5 minutes later, Salah gets his goal, and the tie's over and done with. The question for you guys, and I know, like, if you didn't watch it, it's hard, but do you think Liverpool will get into the top 4 this season?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think there's 4 teams better than them.
I just can't. Nah, I don't know. Let's see at the end of the season if I'm eating my words. But there's some. I just can't see them doing it. I mean, saying that though, I can't see Chelsea doing it. So I can't see Man United doing it. So they could get in by default. No better team. I'm very reluctant to say anything at this stage, because I don't think you can base anything on any of the performances that we've seen.
It is early. The other question I was going to ask was Ipswich survival chances. Again, it is early.
Snowball in hell. That kind of chance.
Liverpool. I mean, come on, let's be honest, right? You've got Liverpool your first game of the season, and you're up against Mo Salah.
Do you know who they're playing next week?
Who have they got next week?
City away. Welcome to the Premier League, Ipswich Town.
Yeah, what about that one?
That's a bit unfair, though, isn't it?
Is it one of their new shareholders, Ed Sheeran? Did I read that?
Right? You did. Yeah.
It's only a small. It's like 1.4%.
He doesn't own the club.
He was actually at the game yesterday, and he had to fly out for a gig as well. So straight after the game, but he was there. But he's a shareholder.
Is that why he keeps appearing with Taylor Swift? Then he's earning some extra money trying to buy some more players.
It must be.
Could well be.
there's a certain player at Arsenal that they could buy well, actually 2 if they wanted to. But right, we'll move on to Everton v Brighton. Did anyone watch that?
Only what was on Match of the Day.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day again for them.
Yeah.
Everton was shocked.
Very
Shocked.
interesting game. But Mark, could go for it just as your take.
Yeah,
what you
no,
saw.
look, my cousin's a season ticket holder at Goodison, so I'd have an insight into what's going on there. And they were absolutely outrageously bad yesterday. Like, the lost 3-0 could have been more. Like, when you're starting a defence and Ashley Young is your right back, it's not good. Like, you know, it's not a good thing. The last few seasons, they've found 3 teams worse than them. Now, they'll need the 3 promoted teams to be terrible again this season to stay out of relegation. And they'll need their points deduction not to be too ginormous. But they are going to sail close to the wind again, definitely. And I thought they wouldn't. I thought they finished last season strongly. I thought they'd, start this season well. Brighton under a new manager as well. I think there was a lot of uncertainty as to how that was going to go. And I saw the result and was like, what the hell's going on there? And then I watched it on Match of the Day and I was like, that could have been worse. And I know we'll probably come on to VAR later on, but to me it wasn't a penalty anyway. So if Everton are crying about that, then they're barking up the wrong tree there for me.
When do they go into their new stadium?
It'll be next season.
Yeah. So they've got to stay up. They're desperate to stay up because there's no worse feeling than moving into a new stadium and you're relegated. That's gonna.
Yeah,
they should have went down about 3 years ago, like literally every season for the last 3 years. So wouldn't it be really funny if they went down?
Yeah, and I guarantee you, all their budgets are tied up with them staying in the Premier League. If they go down, there'll be a fire sale at Everton next summer because they won't be able to afford to keep any of those players.
I think they'd be get a hit for points as well again this season. I think the Premier League are back after them again. It's not
they are,
done
yeah.
with, so yeah. It was actually funny. I watched the game and 2 Everton players went through, and the ball got passed to Dwight McNeil.
And he was I saw this on Match today. Yeah,
one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It was not quite as bad as Garnacho's miss, but
it wasn't far off it though.
He hit the post, and it came back to him, and he squared it. And the person that put him through in the first place, like, they just stood there. It's like the ball
wasn't it?
Yeah. He was like 2 yards from it. It's like just tap it into the net and absolutely nothing. So the penalty I do agree with. Bart overturned that. I think it was more that he put his foot on the defender than anything else. And Danny Welbeck comes up with a goal, the second goal.
Nice
Great goal.
Yeah,
I love Danny Welbeck. Do you know what? He is definitely. I so wish he never left.
He was injured though.
Yeah, he glass knees, but it's a real shame because I just felt like he was. Yeah, it was just one of them players had a nice energy about him. He never quite got there.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Again, I'm going to ask a question. I know it's early on in the season. 3-0 Brighton away. Do you see them doing well this season?
I think they'll make Europe, but I don't think they'll finish top 4.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, as I said, I wasn't sure with a new manager coming in whether there was going to be a massive drop-off, but we've seen this before with Brighton. Potter left. We all thought that was going to fall apart. De Zerbi just comes in and improves them. And it looks to be the same again with this new guy who is extremely young, I think, as well, 31 or 32.
32, yeah.
So
32. I actually seen him, and honestly, if he put one of the tops on, you would just think he was one of the players.
Yeah. We were having the same conversation last night. We was watching Match of the Day. We were like,
cannot believe he's the manager. Everton, would you be concerned if they do get a points deduction of where they could go?
I would be. I'd be concerned even without a points deduction, to be honest. As Dave was saying, the last few years they haven't been good. They've just managed to find 3 teams worse than them. And that's what they'll be looking for again this year, that the 3 promoted teams will just happen to be worse than them. Everton are a Premier League club in name only, really. That's where they're at. Everything else about the club, their ground, which obviously they're moving out of, the way they've been hit by PSR all the last few years, it suggests they're not run soundly either. So they're a Premier League club to me in name only, and they need massive changes quickly. I know there's talks of the fella who owns Palace trying to buy them or buy 90% of the club. I don't know how the Premier League will let that work if there's an issue there with the same owner of two clubs within the league. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I don't think you could do that. I don't think you could do that.
No, you can't, because wasn't there something about I don't know what the resolution that is. Man United being in Europe, there was something that there was
Nice.
But actually, you saying what you were saying there. You know, the one reason why I'd be annoyed if the only reason that I would be annoyed about Everton is not even directly related to ex-Everton. It's Everton sort of by default or by proxy, is the fact of if City face none of these charges, which should accumulate a point deduction at the minimum, right? Why are clubs like Everton being the whipping boys because they can't afford to basically pay for big ass lawyers that are going to stop? This is the only thing that is annoying me. And also, my gut instinct, I know this is slightly going off with saying that City are not going to face anything, is if they were going to face anything, they would have slapped them with something in July or August. But by giving it in September, they're going to make some excuse. The season's already started and they're not going to, and I just think that it's making a travesty. And that's the only reason why I would be concerned about Everton. Other than that, they're just another club in the Premier League that we have to beat to win points, and whatever they do at the end of their season is up to them. It's nothing to do with us.
Yeah. David, do you want to touch on any of that?
I totally agree. Basically, what both have been saying, really. I mean, Everton. If we're going back to Everton, they should be down. They should have been down a few years ago. I think, is it Everton and Arsenal the only teams who've never been relegated?
I think that's
something like that. Not obviously counting the other lot, but I
don't know about why Everton have never been relegated. I mean, they've got more legs than a cat, but sorry, David, on you go.
I mean, do you remember that game in the 90s when they played? Was it last game of the season, Wimbledon? I think they went 2-0. They had to win, and I think they went 2-0 down in that game.
Yeah,
I mean, that was like 30 years ago almost. I mean, they just got so lucky. Like, it's just like So that's when they went down, I think.
Right, moving on to 3 o'clock kickoffs. Obviously, it's match of the day. I watched Arsenal game. You guys were at the game, etc. Newcastle Southampton for me was a shock. That was only 1-0. I expected Southampton to get hammered. Just your take on that game?
Well, I thought that some of the decisions that happened at our game were a travesty, and it was a little bit of a bloodbath. And then I watched that, and I was like, okay, maybe we're moaning about nothing. Sorry, don't control contribution. But I was watching that. I mean, see, I love watching Match of the Day with my husband. I hate watching it with my dad. My dad will just skip through to the Arsenal game, right? He'll just go, right. My husband likes watching it. In fact, Christmas when they were watching it together, it was hilarious. I've never seen them have an argument. We've been married for like 4 years. We've been together for nearly 9. And it's the only time I think I can remember where my husband nearly lost his temper with my dad. He's like, will you just put the game on? But we do sit and watch them all. And we said the same thing to each other. We were like, what is going on? This game is crazy. Like, it's so much pent-up aggression from players that didn't get to let it out of the Euros. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on that, Mark?
Yeah, just as I said, I thought Newcastle win easily. Obviously, a sending off changes the dynamic of any game massively.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened, because Southampton could have easily got a point yesterday. There was a clearance off the line, a couple of other chances. Burton Diaz, who was obviously involved in the red card incident, had a great chance with a header just after the red card incident. Plays it wide, and a couple, one cleared off the line. So as I said, look, without the sending off, Newcastle probably would have won 3 or 4. With the sending off was, let's get this 1-0 and get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And look, at the end of the day, if you're going to put your head in another player's face, expect them to maximise on the fact that you put your head in their face.
Absolutely.
The only thing that they are actually stopping games for now, and they've been very honest, is head injuries. Why are you going to put yourself in a position where it's looking like you're going to get a headbutt? I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I mean, it's like that, you know. I lost fingers because I put my hand in a lion's mouth. Don't put your hand in a lion's mouth then. You know, I just think, do I think he massively of course he massively overplayed it. We saw it, but let's face it, any player would have probably done the same.
That's it. It's a sending off all day long.
Yeah.
Like, you know, as you said, Diaz did make sure he got sent off, but Shea gave him the opportunity.
I actually thought that there could be more, just before David came in, because I actually thought the reaction from the Newcastle players when he went down, he was feigning it, and he shouldn't have done it, but the reaction of them was, I actually thought, guys, you're borderline here.
Yeah. What Byrne did there actually is disgraceful. If your man, he didn't know, he's not a doctor, he could have been seriously injured, and he's dragging him up by the scruff of the neck. That's extremely dangerous. If he is seriously injured, which, look, we all knew he wasn't, but still, it's not your job as another player to go along and go, I'll look after this myself. To me, it's something that they need to clamp down on big time.
David, did you watch the game?
Unfortunately, no, I didn't. But now I want to go and watch it because after what you three have been saying about the game, I feel like I really need to go and watch that more than go and watch an Arsenal game again.
David, I would recommend that, and certainly watch halftime as they're walking up the tunnel as well, because that was something else.
In fact, one of the commentaries I saw on that, which made me laugh, was they said, they have to have they actually have to have CCTV in these tunnels now since the incident between Arsenal and Man United. And I was
we're always involved.
I was just about to use that same example to David. David, if you remember back to Vieira and Keane in the tunnel with Gary Neville, that was like 2% compared to what happened yesterday. Seriously.
Really? It was like a tea party compared to what you saw.
Yeah, it was. It certainly was. So I'll not spoil it for you, bro. And if anyone else hasn't watched it, do definitely check
I'm
that out.
I'm going to watch it now. I'm definitely watching it now.
Stay on the podcast. Watch after the podcast, bro.
Yeah, okay, I'll put it on now.
Newcastle season, I guess I'm going to keep doing this for the fixtures. I know it's early, but just do you see them with the one game a week? Can you see them injury-free doing well?
They start off. They burn out quite quickly, I've noticed. So I can't see them going the distance by the end of the season.
Probably, look, the one game a week will definitely help them. I think Villa will probably step back this year, which will create an opening for them if they're good enough to take it. As I said, it's very early, but they could get into Europe. They could get that kind of 5th, 6th place. They have a lot of good players. They don't seem to be in a need to sell, particularly. Like, they're going to keep hold of Isak. They're going to keep hold of Bruno Guimaraes. So they're their two main guys, I suppose. They'll keep hold of them, which most clubs would love to have them. So they'll be dangerous in terms of attacking the top 4. Whether they'll be good enough to get in, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, David, your take?
I think they'll be better if they give us Isak. I think that might improve. that will improve their bank balance.
Yeah, David, I absolutely agree with you, and I think that you should at least send them an email just to state that fact.
Yeah. Just release him from his contract. No fee.
Yeah.
Just.
I mean, going back to the like playing once a week thing. Sometimes I've never agreed with people when people say, it's once a week, you've got a whole week. Sometimes I think you just need to get into a groove, and sometimes playing every three or 4 days, especially if you're losing as well, and you've got a whole week to wait. But obviously it's all right for a team who've got a small squad, but we'll have to wait and see on them.
I've just been looking at my fantasy football. He's one of mine on my fantasy football.
Mine's as well. I put him in as well.
Yeah. So I look at that. I like. I've got one at work as well. As in, the teachers are encouraged to have a fantasy football league with the 6th formers. So So that's a lot of fun. The loser doesn't get relegated. They have to buy all the sixth formers that play chocolate. So
Oh.
I would have loved her. I would have loved to re-sign Bruno as well. I mean, I don't like him obviously when we play them because he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
But he would have been great for us. I tell you, he's a really good player.
Sorry for the question, but again, because it's only the first game of the season. Southampton concerns?
Oh, definitely. Relegation candidates, big time, I think.
Yeah.
I think we've seen a pattern over the last few years, and it's not a good thing. The three promoted clubs go straight back down. So that's I think it's happened the last 2 seasons. So like Leicester are due a points deduction, so Southampton are probably the most likely of the three to be the ones if any of them do escape. But I do think it's going to be a real struggle for them.
Mm-hmm. I think Forest as well.
Yeah. I think Forest as well. I mean, you get a couple of we had a couple of teams, didn't we, for some years that were like yo-yo teams, like the West Ham, Burnley,
Norwich, Sheffield United.
Norwich.
Yeah. Palace did for a little bit, but
Sheffield United.
But I think the Southampton's a funny one because Southampton go either way. They could scrape it, or they could just end up going down. I mean, I personally feel like they're a candidate to go down, is my opinion. But then, Ipswich, I don't think poor sods, I don't think they've got much chance of staying up.
Okay, we move on to Forest against Bournemouth. 1-1. Chris Wood, I'm trying not to swear, done something that he could not do fucking last season from 3 yards out. Sorry, I did have to
my
swear.
life. Yeah.
I'm allowed that one. I'm allowed that swear.
You have one.
That's the only one I'll have. That's the only one I'll have. So, Chris Wood gets off the mark, and I'm not even going to try and say that player's name because I'll butcher it. Scores an 86th minute. And did any of you guys watch the game at all?
Only on Match of the Day.
Same. So hard to form, because they didn't even really go into it in much detail on Match of the Day. So hard to form kind of much of an opinion.
I've not even watched it, so if any of you guys want to try and break it down a bit, feel free.
Just flat. I think that's why they didn't go into much detail. I don't think there was much
nothing to talk about. Yeah. So basically, Forest scored after 5 or 6 minutes, and Bournemouth scored after 86 minutes, and it finished 1-1. And that's about the height of it.
Yeah. Even if Ian Wright was still on Match of the Day, he would have made that interesting. So,
So let's make it interesting then. Eddie Nketiah is linked to Nottingham Forest, so what's your takes on that? Would that be a good move for him?
Is that definite?
Nothing.
There's links.
There's links.
Concrete.
He was linked to, obviously, he was Marseille. It came back to the Premier League. It was going to be Bournemouth. They went and bought a Brazilian, and then a link came out a day or two after that it was Forest. So
Forest and Palace, I think, are the two that are talking about now. So we'll see.
Someone said on one of the Facebook groups we were on, someone said a straight swap Tony for Nketiah.
Oh, I'll take that. I
don't think Mikel Arteta would, though.
I like Tony, actually. I like Tony.
I'm not sure Arteta's a fan.
Listen, if I tell you that I had a blazing, should we say heated conversation with my brother today about a player that I would love at Arsenal, and he's gone to me, am I allowed my one swear? You're fucking on something. He's gone. I'd take Jack Grealish from City all day, every day.
I would take that. I think
that's not happening.
But the reason
I would take that.
The reason I take it is because they've now only valued him at 50 million. It was 51 million is what they're saying today that they only value him at.
All right.
He's peed off that he didn't make the England team, and it's all based, apparently, it's on the squad because it's all based on accumulated minutes played, and he didn't have enough. He went from the captain at Villa, right? Yeah. I think, look, Villa is the one team that caused us trouble last season. He's played now with City, and he plays with a load of the English contingent at Arsenal who play for the England squad, right? He would fit in beautifully, rotation around between Saka and Rice, put him in the middle. He would be I personally think that would be a strong midfield. And he blatantly isn't, He's not going to get any. Who have you got? You got Doku and Foden in his position. Are you trying to tell me that they're going to rotate him? No, I would. If we do have 50 million to spare. I mean, at the end of the day, they've paid 100 million for him and sat him on the bench. We paid 100 million for a player that the poor sod hasn't stopped playing. He's knackered.
Yeah.
So personally, I'd take him every day. And if that's a controversial point, and I'm not allowed him back again, that'll be the hill I'm dying on this podcast. But
I agree.
I
would take him. I think he could play left 8 and he could also play on the wing. I think this would be a very. I would take Jack. I honestly do. And I think if you give him regular game time, you would actually see the best of him as well. He's a great player.
And it would benefit the England squad. The bottom line is psychologically, he's played. I believe he has played under Emery, isn't he? Please correct me if I'm sure. And he's also played now under Pep. He can bring that knowledge to Arsenal would be invaluable. He could build up with the England squad, which means he could build up with the players for us that are there. He's he's got captain's experience with being at Villa. So there's a lot of things that he can bring to sort of motivate the team. And I believe he could fit in so many teams. And I think the only reason that he went to City was because of the money and because he wanted to win trophies. And he didn't realise he's gone from a captain to a squad player. I mean, I'd 100%. I would 100% take him.
And he's obviously fallen well down the pecking order because Oscar Bob obviously got injured during the week and he still wasn't started today. They picked Savinho, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, ahead of him. When they took him off at half-time, Foden's always going to be ahead of him. So Foden came on. I don't think Jack Grealish got any minutes today.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
So he's and if Oscar Bob was fit, that would suggest he's 5th in the pecking order for any of those wide spots.
I don't think he was even on the subs sheet today. Grealish.
Yeah, so that would suggest they have something lined up.
Yeah,
I'm
going to be touching on that, but Jack Grealish is a nice bit to go into the next segment, which is West Ham and Aston Villa. Now, I want to touch on it. I watched this. Onana scores in 4 minutes. I wanted him at Arsenal, if I'm being honest. I thought he'd be decent. Scores in 4 minutes, and it was the exact same goal as last season when Declan Rice crossed it in, and Gabriel was 3 yards out or 5 yards out, and headers into the back of the net. Yeah. West Ham have run absolutely zero. Yeah. Any of your takes on that?
Yeah, no, it's just going to echo what you said. Conceding a goal like that, when you let a player have a free header from 3 yards out from a corner, you have to ask serious questions about what's going on the coaching field all week, first of all, and then the players on the pitch themselves actually organising it. Because Onana didn't do anything special. He just ran ahead of Antonio and 3 yards out, headed it in. You know,
it was really bad defended by Antonio.
It was shocking.
To be honest, it was brutal. David, your take on it, bro?
I only saw little bits on Match of the Day, to be honest, because I say that was on after the Arsenal game, wasn't it? And I was on my way back home. I've seen the goals. Shocking defending. I mean, do West Ham players even know each other? How many players have they signed this summer? Signed. Yeah. They signed a lot of players, didn't they?
Yeah. They won the transfer window, but that just shows that it means nothing yet.
Some people think that's very important.
They do, don't they? They go on about it all the time. Who wins the transfer window? Who cares?
Well, yesterday was a sign. So, out of what you guys saw, Paqueta scored. He's looking like he could be banned for life if he's found guilty for what he's done. And then Villa scored in the 79th minute. Arsenal have got Villa next week. Were you overly impressed by Villa at all?
No, I just think they know how to play us. That's what scares me. I mean, it's like any of you guys that were at the Emirates when Liverpool lost, and they were we were playing. They had the 12 o'clock kickoff, and we were playing at 4. And I went in the club shop, and they have a DJ in there. Like a lot of the time, they have it on Sunday games, and they have a DJ in the shop. They were playing Celebration, and I remember thinking, "This is dangerous, mate! Like you're getting way too excited." And then that game was a train wreck. and the same the beginning of the season. There were some dodgy decisions went their way. And I don't know. I don't want to. They're the team. Look, Man City can face all the charges in the world they want. The bottom line is, if we hadn't lost to Villa in the last couple of games of the season, that title would have been ours, right?
Yep.
So Villa are the team that give me nerves because I just don't want history repeating itself.
Yeah.
Yep. David, do you agree with that?
I totally agree. Yeah, I think like Emery seems to have our number, doesn't he? He's had Arteta's number for a few years now. When they knocked us out in the Europa League a few years ago as well. Didn't even score against them last year. Lost both times. Even though the one, the game you just mentioned, it was like, I remember that game. It was like, I know everyone was celebrating when Liverpool lost to Palace, didn't they? Right. Yeah. And I was gonna video right in the screen by the bar, right in the concourse, right, like everyone going mad. Then I said to myself, I'm not doing it. I'm not jinxing it, but we still lost. Yeah. But I remember that game. The first half of that game, we played really well. And we had loads of chances. Yeah. Then the second half. But the thing is, that game came after the Bayern Munich game as well. I think
ran
out of ideas. And but I think Villa will definitely get in top 4 this year.
Yeah, I think they're.
Do you even with Champions League football?
Good point.
I'm not so sure.
You do not know. I'm thinking they could finish something like 3rd or something, but who knows? Yeah, but we'll see what happens with the Champions League. A bit like Newcastle last year.
They're turning into our bogey team. Do you remember when Stoke were our bogey team?
Yeah.
I feel like this is that moment that I feel like it's just I don't. And I think Emery likes it. I think there's a little bit of a sadistic streak in him that he likes it. Not only is Arteta a fellow Spaniard, but I think there's also a thing of we reject him, so he's going to make our life hell. So but fair play to him. There's one thing I'll say: he came to Premier League. He couldn't speak English when he came to us. Now he is like he went. I'm going to make sure I stay here, right down to learning the language. And I remember him saying that. And now he does like all his own press conferences and everything, doesn't he? And he's really learnt the English game really well. And I just think, he's not going anywhere. There's no point in hoping that he's going to disappear and that Villa are going to suddenly not be our bogey team. That's it. I think they are our bogey team.
Because that's the thing. Like, none of the big clubs in Spain are going to take a chance on him because they've seen at PSG and with us didn't quite work. So they're kind of like, he's kind of at that level that's as high as he's going to go with Villa. PSG aren't going to come back in from Bayern, no. So this is where he is. And as you said, he'll be around for a while, I think. He's bought himself time, if nothing else, with that Champions League qualification. So they're not going to be in any hurry to get rid of him.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to just move on, but obviously I'm missing out the Arsenal game. I'm going to leave that to last. That's the last of the Saturday games because there's an Arsenal podcast, so we're obviously going to go in depth in that. Before I have to sandwich this in because Paul would shoot me and not let me back on the podcast again if I didn't. So I'm going to sandwich it in now because I don't like speaking of them before we go into the Sunday games. Monday Night Football, we have the horrible neighbours that are don't know how to win a trophy against Leicester. Your thoughts on that?
It's going to be
watching it.
No, I won't be. I won't be watching it. You know what? I'm going to say this very honestly. Before last season, Spurs are always I never really took. Oh, hang on, let me rephrase this because I want to get shot. I considered United more of rivals than Tottenham. The North London rivalry to me was always a bit like whatever. They're not our rivals. They're nowhere in our league. What they did to us last season with that City game, I hate them now.
Yeah.
To the point that I will turn them off, and I won't even entertain the conversation with Spurs supporters because nothing in this planet would make me put on another team shirt. Nothing on this planet would make me sing Blue Moon. So you have a very strange psychology that you would over your own club. Nothing would make me cheer Arsenal losing. There's not a thing on this planet that would cheer. So from that point, I won't even tolerate watching them a minute on the TV. I know that even my husband feels the same. It's the one game or match of the day he will skip because he just thinks that they are vile, and I will say that they are vile, and they are so desperate to create a rivalry with us. That's the level they stoop because they want Arsenal fans to hate them.
Do you know what's
our friends, you've done it.
Yeah, their support existence revolves around hating us because they have nothing to cheer themselves, really, you know. So that's what they are. They're more, not everyone, obviously, but most of their fans are Arsenal haters before they're Spurs supporters, which is a weird way to be. A weird way to be, if you ask me. But what do I know?
Do you know the funny point, and that I would put in on it? To get to Champions League in fourth place is worth at least an additional 60 to 70 million, minimum, depending how far you go. And when you look at the transfer window so far, apart from Alvarez heading over to Atletico for 82 million, no one else has spent that money on one player. So Spurs, guess what? You had to just win your game. You could have got in the top four, and you could have had another player.
Yeah.
So, and you know how short-sighted they are. And I said this to my dad at the time. If they'd beaten City then, right, and we had screwed it up, they would have actually had something over us much better than they got over us. Because they could have said, we handed this to you and you screwed it up.
You fucked it up yourself.
If we'd won the league, you only won the league because we let you. Like, it's the short-sighted mentality of, like, just the way that... And like I said to you before, I'm a teacher. There's a boy I used to teach, right? He's left. He was a GCSE student, so he's gone off and doing his A-levels elsewhere. And he was a massive Spurs fan, and there was always a little bit of banter to the point where he'd ask me a question in class. He'd go, "Thanks, miss," and I'd go, "That's all right." And he goes, "Don't you dare!" Right? And that's, you know, he even come up to me after that game and went, "Miss, I want to say to you, I want to apologise for Spurs supporters because I think what they did last night was disgusting." That's a 15-year-old boy telling me that. Do you know what I mean? So, no, I won't watch. I won't watch any, and I'm not even gonna. If we get this in the same position, it's like someone went to me. I bet you was cheering on. I can't remember who they played in the Champions League final now.
Liverpool.
That's it. Someone went to me. I bet you were cheering on like Liverpool, and I went, no. I said I don't even remember when they played. I didn't watch it.
Like, I did cheer on Liverpool.
No, so did I.
The fact of the matter is, you're not. That's an apple and oranges comparison, anyways. That game had absolutely zero impact on us.
No,
you know, like it didn't affect whether we were going to get Champions League the following season or win anything or do it. It was just a game between two.
Mark, I disagree. I disagree. We had a massive stake on that. Imagine Tottenham had won that game. They would have won the Champions League before Arsenal. Come on. Bro.
Yeah, no. Yes, from that point of view, yes. But in terms of actual tangible, I suppose, in terms of us getting Champions League qualification or not, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't control anything.
No, exactly.
From that Liverpool Spurs game.
No, exactly. David, your thoughts before we move on to the Sunday games? And then
I just want to mug off Spurs like everyone else is. I mean, going back to that Champions League final. I mean, it did affect Arsenal fans because if they won it, we would have, would want to, I don't know, get a flight to the moon and stay there or something, or do something or something like that. And when they lost, we was happy as Larry. Just like I'm sure they was happy when we lost the Champions League final in 2006. They would have loved it then. Yeah. I remember back then, right? Is when they were mocking up Barcelona, the badge with the cockerel in it or something like that. And so, but I hate Spurs, like all Arsenal fans should. And when I watch Match of the Day, I never watch the Spurs highlights unless they lose. Then I will sit there and get some popcorn and watch it. Right? I don't even like watching Spurs when they play Arsenal, if I'm honest. It still makes because I just can't stand them. Right? It just makes me sick.
They're delusional. This is
what they are delusional.
They're totally delusional, right? Their whole existence is about where we are and what we do.
That's facts. That is facts.
It is facts. It is facts.
And it's actually quite sad. It's really
it's a weird existence.
When they say about this Woodage thing, right? it actually doesn't bother me when they called us Woolwich Arsenal. I actually just laugh at it. I don't care. I don't care where we come from. We came to North London, basically, and we took it over, and that's basically what we've done.
Yeah.
And that's why, but I don't care if they call us Woolwich Arsenal. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But I never watch Spurs. If I find out they're 3-0, 4-0 down at half time, I might switch it on then. I just can't stand them. Sorry.
Let's move on and not just destroy a good podcast speaking about them. However, I will say that 3 of us have swore so far and David hasn't. So, David, you've still got one in the bag, bro.
What's that?
3 of us have swore so far on the podcast and you're the only one that hasn't. So, you've still got one in the bag, bro.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Just feel free to drop one in there.
Fuck Spurs.
Perfect timing. Right? Perfect timing. Yeah, that's perfect. That was perfect. Right, Sunday games. Brentford Palace. 2-1 Brentford. Notable absentee from the lineup and the squad. Ivan Toney.
Yeah, I did watch both of these today, actually. I did.
Right, good.
Yeah.
I didn't so much because I was setting up the podcast. So do you want to break it down, the game first of all, and then we'll speak about Toney?
I really thought when I went in to watch that game, I really thought Palace was going to win. I don't know why. I just thought that Palace were going to win. There was some very strange decisions with some. I mean, my understanding is this season VAR is trying not to be used unless it's a really clear-cut decision. But I did notice with both of the games today, VAR got used a lot more than the whole of the Premier League combined yesterday, which was quite interesting when you think of who was playing. I think, if I remember rightly, Palace got a goal disallowed, and then Brentford went straight away and scored. And I said to my husband, this is going to finish. Actually, I did say to him, this is going to finish 2-1 Palace. I got a gut feeling. And then I went on and we came back from holiday on Friday, so I've just been sorting out getting all the cases and things finished. So I had it so I could watch the football. I basically had it all laid out on the dining room table so I could still listen. And he walked back in from going to the shops to just get some milk. And I went, I'm wrong, by the way. It is 2-1, but the other way round. And he just laughed. Yeah. So Brentford, I felt were stronger. I think Toney was missing, very obviously missing. I don't know. I think Palace might struggle to finish in the top 10 this year, to be honest, based on that performance. But it is only one game.
Yeah, Elise is a big loss for Palace.
Mark, do you want to speak about the free kick? First of all, the Palace free kick.
Yeah, one of those. There may well have been a foul. The referee blew that up because he thought Eze was going to cross it in. Instead, he shot. Ball goes into the net, and now the referee looks like a clown because the actual foul had zero impact on the goal. But because he's blown his whistle, VAR can't even get involved. So he's made a rod for his own back there. And I'm sure Howard Webb will send an apology to Palace during the week, which will be about as much use as a chocolate teapot. So that's where we're at. There was a mistake. Referee just too hasty with the whistle. And it's cost Palace a point and possibly more because first goal, obviously, in every game is a massive one. Mm-hmm. And as is in my fantasy football team, which pissed me off even more. So,
he's had another one. He can't have one next game now.
So that's where we're at. It should have stood, and again, Brentford went straight down the other end and scored. So
because Palace were rattled. That was the thing. Palace hadn't had the time to get themselves together, and before you knew it,
balls in the net the far end.
Yeah,
David, do you want to touch on the Ivan Toney, why he was missing from the squad, and your take of what was happening there, bro?
That's the first. I haven't even seen him linked to any clubs recently, so maybe it's just me. I mean, I'm normally looking a lot of transfer stuff, so I was quite surprised when I saw that. Have you guys heard if it's been linked to anyone?
Saudi is what I've heard.
I've heard Chelsea. I heard Chelsea. Yeah, if the Osman deal falls through, then I've heard Chelsea. I don't know, do you guys, Mark, or any of you?
I don't think he's going to go to Saudi. I'm going to sound really... How can I put this? How can I put this and try and be diplomatic? He's had all that issues with gambling, right, Ivan Toney? Isn't it a criminal offence in Saudi? And I'm wondering if he wouldn't go somewhere where
You can't gamble.
you can't. No. But my point is that is it a sensible move if he likes a flutter? And also, would they take him? Would they take him? Would any Saudi club take him, knowing what he's got in trouble for here? I don't know.
Who knows? I wouldn't bet against it.
A Saudi would.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been plenty of blind eyes turned to worse over there. So
that is very, very true.
Yeah.
That is very, very true.
Right, swiftly before we move on to Arsenal, we'll touch on the Chelsea-Man City game. No Rodri today.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that, guys?
That I don't want to add to my swear jar. So
no, yeah, just swear.
No, I'm not going to. I personally thought I hate watching Gary Neville commentate any game. I think I'm starting to go back to when I was a kid. My dad used to listen to Capital Gold when Arsenal were playing. They used to turn the sound down, and he used to listen to Capital Gold because he couldn't stand. Oh, what's his name?
Brian Moore.
Andy Gray.
I like Brian Moore anyway.
Andy Gray.
Right.
Anything Arsenal did was terrible. Anything Man United did was amazing. Well, Gary Neville's just turning into him, right? And and it's like I watched that game today. He was going about this incredible goal that Haaland scored. Let's be completely honest. Chelsea's defence was shocking. They walked out of the pub at 1 o'clock in the morning and were on their way for a kebab. There was no way they knew what they were doing at that game. Of course, he's on form. He didn't go to the Euros. He's had all summer to just, whatever. Half the players are still knackered who went to that. So no, I don't agree that he's looking amazing. And also, they're dominating the game. Look at the winning start they've had. Right, let's be realistic. They scored because I thought, hang on a minute. I looked at the scoring, and I said they've basically scored at the same time that we scored yesterday. The first goal was give or take a couple of minutes, and I believe the second goal was about 10 minutes later than Saka scored, okay? So how can we be told that we were struggling to win when we actually scored the second goal earlier than they did, but they're on a winning league and they're dominating the game? They weren't dominating the game at all.
No. I don't remember a chance they had really other than the 2 goals.
No.
Yeah, De Bruyne hit one wide from the edge of the box. And there was one save Sanchez made in the first half. But they weren't battering Chelsea by any manner of means. They were lucky that Jackson is so bloody lazy that he didn't bother to get himself back on side when he should have had a goal. The only reason to be offside there is pure laziness for me.
Oh, shocking.
And can I also add something about this whole offside thing, which is really doing my head in? They get on the back of the striker for being offside. If a striker is doing their job properly, they are going for the goal. They're not hesitating. You could go for a goal and score 5 goals in a game and 3 of them are offside, but 2 are the ones that you've scored. If you haven't given it a go to try to score, you're not going to be onside, offside, or anywhere in between. The job of the defenders is to make you offside, is to run to try to either stop you doing your job or to be an obstruction. So why do they constantly go on about, this player should have known better than to try to go down that way and to try to do this because he was making himself offside? I don't know a striker that actually thinks about whether they're on or offside as they're trying to put that ball in the net. But that's just my opinion. But that,
Yeah. No, that's good take. Dave.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
No, for me though, for that one for Jackson, he could see exactly where Ruben Diaz was. He was about 3 yards away from him. He'd no real excuse not to work harder to get himself onside. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. David, do you want to add anything to that before we move on to the main event?
Yeah, I thought Man City were okay. They done what they had to do. Chelsea were pretty poor. They had a few half chances in the first half and a few breaks, but that was probably it. Everyone says about Gary Neville was saying about Haaland what a beast he is. I mean, defending that, if we conceded that goal again, exactly that, I'd be fuming with our defenders because it's just really weak. And then the second goal was the goal he should have saved in a way, but I expected them to win in a way.
Right, I'm going to move on to the main subject while we're all here.
Why is that? What's that?
I wasn't at the game. Did all you guys go?
I was
Yeah.
there.
Yep, brilliant. Firstly, before we touch on the result and all the rest, it's only right that we talk about the tribute to Super Kev, which is right. Do you guys want to speak about what it felt like inside the Emirates and how it all came down?
Do you know, it hit me like a ton of bricks, actually, because it feels like a million years ago now that it happened, because it was the 15th of June, so it was quite a while, like, it was after the end of the season, and it was quite a while ago in terms of things have happened since then. And I think it's not that I forgot that he died. I suppose maybe there was part of me that did, but I think the fact that they had gone, right, it's still 2 months to the beginning of the new season, but we are doing something. I think the fact that they did that was added to more emotion of it all, because a lot of the time they only do those things when it's happened in that week. But the fact that he's so important to the club, and he was so. Do you know? I think the first game I ever went to when I was 6, he scored. I think it was a testimonial. It was at Highbury, and I'm sure he's. I'd have to ask my dad, because I went with my dad. But you forget what an incredible player that he was, and then the fact that I think his family had requested it wasn't a minute's silence. They wanted us all to chant his name, and everywhere where I was, they were just singing Super Kevin Campbell, and it was just.
That's what I saw with the game. It was like it happened. It was happening in Concord. It was happening everywhere that people were doing it, and it shows testament. Before Mark and David comes out, I just want to say, see, for me, Kevin Campbell was a better person than what he was even as a football player, and that was his greatest thing. He was an incredible football player and a legend of Arsenal Football Club, but what he gave back. Let's not beat around the bush here. There's players, ex-Arsenal players, that you could ask for a signature, you could ask to come on a podcast, you could do whatever, and they would tell you where to go. They wouldn't even answer you. They wouldn't even reply to emails. They would ignore you. And there's millions of players like that. But Super Kev was never like that.
No.
And that's why I felt yesterday that it was only right the club did do that. So, sorry, Mark, do you want to go through just your take and your emotions, bro?
Yeah, no, it was very poignant, as Aish just said. Aish said, it hit me harder than I thought it would, to be honest. As you said, there's quite a bit of distance between his passing and yesterday. So it hit me harder than I actually thought it would. But all you have to do, like every club Kevin Campbell played for, he's nearly a legend at that club. You talk to Everton fans about him, West Brom fans about him. They all hold him in the highest of esteem. And as you said, Mark, anybody that actually met him and dealt with him in person speaks about him incredibly highly.
The other player that's like that is Ian Wright. Palace fans still adore him, the same as Arsenal fans still do, and them two are best friends. And that says something to me as well, to be honest.
Yeah. David, did you want to give your take, bro?
Yeah, it's obviously really sad when he passed away, and obviously when he was ill. I've never met Kevin Campbell, but remember him as a player. He was talking about beasties. He was a beast. I mean, I think that was his nickname Rambo. He was freaking massive, wasn't he? And like I said, I've never met him, but some of the YouTube Arsenal podcasts I listen to, he's on a lot of them, and he seems to give his time to all fans, and which is really nice. And because I mean, I don't know a lot of other players. You don't see him on there. You don't see Ian Wright on podcasts really. I'm sure he's pretty busy, but
I think with Ian Wright, in his defence, to interrupt you, some of these players, when they have these big contracts with Sky and BBC, they're contractually obligated to not do things like this.
Exclusive,
Because Ian Wright, if you stop him in the street, he will film he'll film little things with you. I've seen loads of Instagram reels and stuff like that. And he loves, I don't know if you ever see, he does that thing where he will like randomly start singing in his car.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's done that with other fans as well. So I think it's when it's just on a more production based thing, but I do get what you mean though.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, not just, I mean, just sort of changing the subject a bit, but I saw like a little clip the other day of Jude Bellingham, right? And someone wanted his top. And he said, "Oh, sorry, I'm not allowed to give it to you. I'll get in trouble." And I was like, "Really? What are they going to do? Sell you?" All right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just something small like that, right, which really wound me up a little bit, actually, because I was thinking, you're nothing about the fans, really. And it's just a shirt. I mean, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And
before we, sorry, David, I'm going to start with you before we go into the game. But my last take on Kevin Campbell, I used to wake up every Thursday morning, and the first tweet while I was having a cup of coffee was Kevin Campbell's Dickie Blow Thursday, and just giving you more positive vibes for the day, and it was there all the time. And the biggest tribute I could give to him, for me personally, would be I never got the opportunity to meet him, but I felt like I fucking knew him.
Yeah,
and that is sentiment enough of who the guy is. Sorry, I swore again, but
you're allowed it. It's about Kevin Campbell. You are allowed that.
Plow on.
Yeah. So, Dave. Sorry, David.
Just a quick one. Sorry. Does anyone know if Everton done anything for Kevin Campbell in their game?
I don't know, actually. My cousin was there yesterday, so I can find out, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, he loved Everton, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was a hero there. He was a complete hero. David, stay with you, and then we'll just work it out. Do you want to give a quick breakdown of the game itself yesterday, and we'll touch on some controversial moments during the game, etc., and just try and break it down. But just quick summary of the game. Your thoughts, mate?
I thought we started a bit slow. It wasn't a lot of tempo. I thought we was lacking a bit of rhythm. Bit sloppy at times, but then we sort of got into it a bit, and after about 15-20 minutes then we were playing better. And there's obviously a few instances when there were like Saka, like maybe there was a penalty on him. We'll maybe talk about that, but we obviously we scored a good goal, good cross by Saka, great header by Kai, and that was pretty much first off. In the second half, it was Wolves came into it a lot more. Thought we were a bit more sloppy, just rusty, because it's the first game of the season. There's a few players were definitely below par. In the likes of like obviously the players who came back from Euros late, like Declan Rice, he was okay, he wasn't bad, but you could see there was definitely something lacking there. Even parts of Saka, Saliba and Saliba as well. He gave the ball away a few times, but apart from that, he was actually good. But the only one player annoyed me a bit is like Partey, because he's like literally been there all summer. So even though Partey was actually good in the first half, right? But second half he was just like losing the ball. And like I say, you can't say that's to do with lack of fitness, because he's been there. He hasn't come back from the Euros. But then I've been thinking for last year as well, he looks like he's lacking a bit of pace to catch players now. And be up with them. So I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I mean, I'd have gave us a 7 out of 10 performance, but clean sheet, 3 points, you take it all day long.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, you want to go? I'm leaving you to last because I've got a deliberate couple of questions for you. Mark, you go. Mark, you go next.
No, similar to David, sloppy at times, but look. First game of the season, all you want to do is rack up a win and move on. Performances will get better. As David mentioned, we've players who are after coming back late from tournaments. Saliba, Rice, Saka, all went to the last week of the Euros, so they're only going to get up to speed in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So again, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Just want to give a shout out to David Raya. I thought he was excellent again yesterday.
Unbelievable.
Couple of great saves, and he's very good with his feet. And anytime a cross comes into the box, I feel so secure with him there. He's not going to come and flap at it. He's going to command his area. He's going to win the ball, and we won't play. I thought he was excellent again yesterday, and he was my man in the match. I know it's not often we give it to a goalkeeper, but yeah, I thought yesterday he was probably our best player.
Okay. Controversial question time.
Ooh, here we go.
Define sexual assault and assault.
Yeah.
That's a very I think
That's a very leading question.
all right.
Sorry, yeah, okay, sorry.
We all know the incident is to do with. You shouldn't be putting your hands on anyone in any capacity, whether it is sexual or it is aggressive. Or the bottom line is, yes, we know football is a physical sport, but your feet should be the parts of the body entwining, nothing else. And as far as I'm concerned, when I see a player with his arms around, I believe it was Saka, for a good 3 seconds and nothing happens to him, and then you see the player that got smacked on the backside, and then you see, I think it was Havertz with someone with his hands around his throat.
It was the same player. It was the same player.
Yeah, actually it was. Yeah,
It was the
Was it the same player? Right. So this is the thing, right? I don't know how you guys feel. One of the reasons why I don't know where I've got a really good seat, right? I get to see. I would never give my seat up for love nor money. And everyone that ever goes in my seat, if I can't go, always come back to me and go, "Don't you ever give up that seat? That seat's amazing." But I can't always see these decisions that get made because they happen so quickly. I always like to refrain from what I'm saying until I get home and watch Match of the Day, because I can see it from different angles. And there was no angle in the world that's going to tell me that any of that behaviour was fine. And I don't understand why the ref... I mean, Saka got booked like this for something that was so stupid. Yeah, they didn't even put VAR on that decision about... I mean, let's just say we're talking earlier about the headbutt and head injuries. Now, these two things, that yesterday and this today, I was quite opinionated on both of them, because I'm sure some of you on the panel, maybe I'm an asthmatic. So if anyone wants to put their hands near my throat, sorry, that's going to be a no-no, because it could make me have an asthma attack. But I grew up having epilepsy. Anyone comes near my head, I panic. Like, even at work, when we all teachers have to do break duty, I do mine inside and not outside, in case one of the boys gets a bit plonky with his ball over the net. Do you know what I mean? So I was watching that going, that's not, that's something that really affects me. And I look at that and I go, that's not right. And these are fully fit players, but you don't know. And that moment in time, let's just say Havertz had swallowed because he was coming up for air and he's gone like this. The crowd is screaming. You could have an incident on your hand. We've had so many things happen in the last 10 years with players who are seemingly fit just collapsing. Christian Eriksen, Fabrice Muamba. I know they're heart attacks and I know it's different, but we should be aware that you do not, it might be a physical game. You do not put your hands on anybody, full stop.
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry, I went on a rant there. I apologise.
No, you're quite right. Going back to the hand on Jesus's backside, he could be bisexual. He could be gay. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not raising that. It's a very open world, and everybody's entitled to whatever they want to do. However, if that had been a man against a female, you would be instantly sacked for it. And this guy wasn't even punished.
No.
And
actually,
it wasn't
Jesus
just
got booked for reacting to it.
He did. But it wasn't even just like a slap on the bum, because Rhea does that now and again. I've seen Rhea, the defenders cleared the ball and Rhea's went up and slapped his backside and brilliant and all the rest. And I understand that, and that's fine. But this was almost like a grope.
Yeah, and do you know what annoyed me? I was talking about this to one of my friends who's a Chelsea fan, and he was saying to me, "Oh, you're a hypocrite. You lot are all right when Ben White's in the in the goal, and he's playing around the goalkeeper's gloves." I'm like, it's a bit different to smacking a guy on the arse. Playing around with someone's goalkeeper glove is a bit different. No, I think your point what you were saying there about if they were gay or bisexual, do you know what? I think that is a valuable point, because at the end of the day, people will try to do that because of somebody's orientation or lack of orientation, and it's still something that doesn't belong in the game. At the end of the day, the players take the knee because they give about racism, and 100% I support that. Yep. So So at the end of the day, we should be highlighting as well. Men's mental health is incredibly important. We don't talk about that enough in this country. We don't talk about male sexual assault in this country. And I think by having something so millions of people watch football, millions of people watch Match of the Day, millions of people read the newspapers on a Sunday after what goes on in the Saturday games. These things are going to be plastered all over there. Why is that any less? So that's now, how do you know that's not affecting Jesus' mental health? That there's pictures all over the newspaper of someone with their hand on his backside. If that was Leah Williamson, God forbid, I would 100% be doing the same things. That player needs to go because they should not have their hands on her backside. The same as they shouldn't have their hands on his backside. So I agree. I totally agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah. There was Gary O'Neill came out after the game and said Arsenal fans are sniffing the title. And I put a tweet out last night and I had to delete it today because it was very controversial. It was big sniffing as well. And so you could only imagine how bad it was. And it was just like, I was infuriated by it. But I was also infuriated by the assault. If I was in the street and I'd done that, any day two events to anyone in the street outside, I'd be arrested.
Of course, and also...
your feet wouldn't touch the floor.
No,
they wouldn't at all.
And as I'm assuming, I'm sure I'm right, the only female on this panel, I would like to also add that I've had my season ticket for 15 years, right? And when I started going, the guys that were sat around me, they were really nervous at first, not because they didn't want me there as a girl, right? But because I think there was it wasn't a sexist thing. It wasn't a thing of, oh God, there's a woman here now. Not that at all. I think it was a thing of how do we act around her? If we swear, is she going to get offended? Like stuff like that. Yeah. And obviously after about 2 or 3 seasons and they got to know me, everything, it was like I was just one of the lads, right? Or I was a girl that they just was, camaraderie with. But what I get really fed up and with is that I see genuine men at those games every single week. I broke my ankle last year. And you know what? I managed to get back to the games from November and I was still on a boot with crutches. The men that sit around me, one of them offered to go get me a cup of tea. One of them asked if I was all right getting in the lift. All these sorts of things. And when I see stuff like that up on the pitch, all I think of is not only the detriment of the player and what message this is sending out, but this is what people think football fans are like. People think this is what football is like. And it's not at all. When Arsene Wenger left, right, I was at that last game. I was crying my eyes out. I adored Arsene Wenger. He was God to me, right? I would have full-blown voice fights with people about Wenger out, Wenger in. Like I was always a Wenger in person. There was a guy sat behind me. He doesn't sit there anymore. I think he's moved seats. Lovely, lovely guy. I was quite obviously trying not to look like a girl in front of all these guys because I was crying. From over my shoulder, he just handed me a tissue, right? Now, that's the men I sit with at Arsenal. No man would ever try to do to me what happened to Jesus on that pitch yesterday. No. So we need to stop normalising that is banter on the pitch with these men.
I've never seen it in 32 years. Ever.
No.
And I've seen some crazy shit.
That's it. Look, we all know the famous Vinnie Jones and Gaza picture from however long ago that is. But that's how far back you have to go for something like this.
And that was also, without hope I don't offend anyone, that wasn't sexually. I mean, it was sexual because it was sexual organs, but he was trying to hurt him, like physically hurt him. That yesterday was, it just wasn't. It wasn't acceptable. And like you say, if any of you guys did that to me as we got out of the seats, Arsenal would ban you for life. So what's the difference?
Yeah. But it wasn't covered anywhere yesterday. Like Match of the Day didn't do that on it.
No, but that's what's annoying me.
Like Sky have it's not goals on Sunday anymore. It's the thing Darren Lewis is on, didn't touch on it. Like this honestly, it's a serious incident that has
if he does not get banned this week coming, there is something wrong.
Yeah. They did a ref watch, don't they, on a Monday? See what happens in that one.
Yeah, I guarantee it won't be covered.
Yeah, it won't be covered.
Though.
Like,
You're right,
going back to-
100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like going back to the game, we had a couple of players I felt that personally looked good, looked sharp, and we had a couple of players that maybe looked a bit rusty. Saliba for me looked really quite rusty. It's a natural. He just came back from
Yeah,
Euros.
everyone coming back from the Euros was. I mean, I
Yeah.
will say though, hats off. Zinchenko had a really good game. I really
Yeah.
thought he was trying. I thought that he really, really wants his place in that team. The only thing is, I think he's too slow. I really do, and I think when the minute Timber come on, it changed. It really the dynamics have changed. Maybe they could start doing something with him and Timber like they do with Martinelli and Trossard at the back.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? You know.
Yeah.
Another noticeable thing for me was there was a certain player who is fully fit that wasn't even in the squad. Did any of you guys notice who that was?
Yeah, because I think I saw you tweet this yesterday, or someone did, Kivior.
Bergkamp.
Bergkamp,
Yeah, he got there.
Totally missed out. Do you think there's anything behind that?
Hard to know.
I think he might go.
I think if we get an offer, he probably will go. Like yesterday on the bench defensively, we Timber and Calafiori. I'm not sure who else, but we definitely had those two. And both of them cover full back as well as centre half. So maybe it's just a case he wanted more attackers on the bench. But I would imagine if an offer comes that we feel reasonable, he will be gone.
We haven't had him long, have we?
We bought him 18 months basically.
Yeah.
I just wonder if there's something in that coming up. See, when you're watching these games, like Ivan Toney not being there today, you just start to wonder.
Yeah, 2+2. Yeah.
Yeah. Normally ends up with 3, but it's just a thought. Overall, are you confident on next week, Rate of Villa, through what you've seen?
I'm more nervous against Villa than I am against City.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your play. That's a good point.
I'll tell you one. I mean, I don't know if you're going to go into this. The one thing I want Arteta to do this season, I want him to stop ignoring the cups, because I think that the cups are going to. We're going to get. It's a chance at silverware. Don't ever knock that. And a lot of the players, like Ramsdale, will be able to get experience in the cups because they can't keep sitting on the bench every Premier League game. They can't. Yeah. And I really, really am getting. I mean, the FA Cup and the for me, the FA Cup is. No one thought Man United was going to win it last season. Now they're one behind our record. Arteta, do not let that suddenly disappear. Like, to me, I don't think it's a bad season if you finish second and win the FA Cup. I don't. The problem with Arsenal is, and I've had this argument with other Arsenal fans, so I'm not going to be very popular right now. I don't think there's a big problem with consistently finishing second if you're building your squad and you're attracting players. The problem is when you're finishing 5th, 6th and 7th and you're pretending that's good because you're, or so we say 4th, 5th and 6th because you're still making Champions League. It's not right. If the only team stopping you winning the league is City, you're in a pretty good place. The only thing missing from us at the moment is we are attracting those players because there are players all around England and Europe that want to be that player that basically helps us win that league.
Get over the line.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with us admitting that's what we need. John said it in the chat. He said we need a striker. I totally agree that we need another striker. And I think that we're not going to get them if we're not consistent. But we need to start winning silverware because the fans are going to keep saying, yeah, all right, but we still haven't won anything. Give us back the FA Cup. Maybe have a go at the Carabao Cup. Let's turn around and see. I'm not saying we can't win the league. Would I love us to win the league? Of course I'd love us to win the league. But the bottom line is, let's be realistic. We need to build this squad a bit more and we need silverware. And I don't mean the Community Shield. I mean proper silverware.
That's the thing, that we play our squad players in those 2 cup competitions. The other thing going on a run the cup competitions does, it gives them exposure. So say Eddie and Ketia, we reach a semi-final or a final of an FA Cup and he scores 5 goals in that cup run, someone rings you going and want to buy him, it means you can charge that little bit more.
Exactly.
Same if Ramsdale keeps clean sheets in that run. Reece Nelson played against Liverpool in the cup last year. If he gets minutes in the cup and has good performances in the cup, you can charge that bit more. Like Liverpool basically won the Carabao Cup with a team of youngsters last year and Virgil van Dijk. So anybody that wants to buy a player from Liverpool that has done that, Liverpool can go, well, this guy performed really well for us in a series of cup games. We need X before you can even think about buying him.
True. Yeah.
That's the other side of those cup competitions. Great to win them, but it's very important to also to give exposure to your squad players because it keeps their value.
And
the
other thing as well, I'm thinking about the years before I had my season ticket. The only tickets we could ever get was Carling Cup games. And from a point of view of a young fan, I mean, we're thinking about our future. We're thinking about building our fan base. We're thinking about building our squads. These little kids that you want to be sitting where we're sitting in 20, 30 years' time, if they're not able to get tickets to see these players, then it's going to turn into them just watching it at home. And you know that that's not always the most fun thing to do. But these, being able to see the likes of, let's just say, Saka playing alongside the our B team or our youth team coming up, and you've got a couple of first team players in amongst these new names, and then in years to come you go, oh my god, I remember watching them when they were like Carabao Cup teams, or that was the FA Cup first round team. It builds such a community of loving the team, loving the players, and like you say, putting a price tag on them where we can start buying those, the next round of Haalands or Fodens or
Galacticos.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So, David, just on the points that the guys are making, what do you want to see in the transfer market in the next 2 weeks? What do you want to see Arsenal do?
I want a striker.
Who is it?
That's the thing.
That's the problem, isn't it?
I'm not Arkela, so I don't know. I mean, who's out there? I mean, I like Tony, but the age as well, and that would be a lot as well. I mean, he is 28. I wouldn't mind Watkins. I do like Watkins. I don't think he's world class through, but Watkins. I definitely think if we had someone like him, Arteta could improve him. But I do think we need a wide player as well to help Saka out, because he can't just keep playing on his games. But then the thing is, you try and sign someone there. How are you going to get him to sign? Oh, you're just going to come in now and again when Saka's tired. So how'd you get that over the line? I know Jesus probably could play there, but we do need a midfielder as well, to be honest.
Yep.
So
okay. Can I drop a bomb on you guys and just take turns? I need to do some, so I'll be back in a minute. But my bomb for you guys is right now. We know what we need. We know we need a midfielder. I think we could play Jesus, worst case scenario, out on the right wing. But Martinelli could go out there as well. So for me, we definitely do need a striker. However, next season, we possibly need 2 number 6s, or we're going to need a 6 and an 8, depending on what you're going to do with Declan Rice, because next season, Thomas Partey is a free transfer and will leave the club, and J20 will be a year older.
Jorginho as well.
Yeah, J20, that's what I mean. Yeah, so the question now is, should Arsenal be looking to address that this season? If it's a young prospect that could come along with Partey and J20, so he could have a season to settle in and do that, or do we go all out for this marquee signing?
The problem with a marquee signing, particularly up front, is that I'm not sure there's one out there. Like, even if you look at the tournaments in the summer, particularly the Euros, if you were picking a team in the tournament, you'd leave out a striker. There wouldn't be one striker you'd put in because there wasn't one that performed. So I'm not sure there's a striker out there that you can go, like there's no Erling Haaland available in the transfer market at the moment that you can just go, bang, he's going to get us 25 plus goals and solve all our problems. Any striker we bring in, I think, is going to be a punt largely and a hope. Rather, there's no guarantees. No, there's no guarantees that anyone. Someone could break their leg in the first minute or first game and you never see them again. But for me, going after a striker, it's easy to say, but it's very hard to identify a striker that's going to be that much better than what we have already, whether it's Havertz or Jesus. So for me, and obviously there's an opportunity cost with every transfer you do as well, because it's money that you can't use to reinvest somewhere else. So for me, yes, we need a striker, but I'm just not sure there's a good market opportunity there at the moment to buy one.
Okay.
I totally agree. And, the more I hear about we need a midfielder as well, there is part of me that goes, why did you sell Smith Rowe then? Why didn't you actually give him a chance to flourish? Why didn't you put him on why didn't you allow him to play against the teams like the Bournemouths or the Ipswiches, so that you could, it wasn't, all right, you wouldn't put him on against City. I get that. But you could still have put him, you could still have plugged a hole in the games that were a little bit more likely to be wins, and then given other players a rest, and then they're talking about buying players to give Declan Rice and Saka a rest. Okay, good. But who are you going to buy? And then it's the same conversation as the strikers. Who are you going to buy? I mean, we've got this. I mean, they're talking about Tony. Okay. I have read that a couple of places. And weirdly enough, before I come on this podcast, because we were talking about Grealish, I did actually Google if there were any rumours about Arsenal and Grealish, and there are. Apparently the board have given Arteta the green light to approach City about him. I've not heard this anywhere else other than reading it on two news websites, and that fall flat. But I just don't think, and then you're going to get the other side of it. There's going to be players that are quite happy to sit on the bench at Chelsea, sit on the bench at City, earning the money they're on, because they like the lifestyle as well as being able to say they're a football player, even if they're talented and they're really good. But they know they're going to have to work for it, other clubs. And unfortunately, Arsenal will make you work for it. That's the bottom line.
No, 100%.
Unfortunately, because we're really bad sellers, we only seem to like loaning players out. Right? And we can't seem to get big money for these players. Unlike Liverpool sell players like, I don't know, who's the player they sold a few years ago to Sheffield United? I forgot his name. And they sold him for it wasn't even
Brewster,
the first teamer. That's the one.
Brewster for
didn't they send
money.
Didn't they send him like 40 million or something? And we can't even get 30 million for something like Eddie, or even Ramsdale at the moment as well. So because we're not good sellers, right? Obviously to buy players is unlimited, isn't it? Well, it's not unlimited; it's limited. Because
do you know what? Talking about Kai there, he's a classic example. The amount of Chelsea fans I saw, the cancer's been cut from our club. We robbed you, Arsenal, 60 million.
Oh, I know.
The classic thing with Havertz is he obviously didn't gel with the players he was playing with, because Chelsea have got this horrible habit of just buying a load of random players because they're trying to build up a team. I mean, have you seen the meme that's going around? It's one of the I'll have to find it and drop it to you guys in the WhatsApp chat. It's one of the trains in India, who have got like all the people on the top.
Yeah, hanging on the roof. Yeah.
And it says on there, Chelsea's team bus when they arrived at Stamford Bridge today. Because their squad's huge. Well, it's mental that they just... But they did get in trouble with that a couple of seasons ago, didn't they? They got in trouble because they were basically accused of buying players to stop other clubs having them.
That's what they're doing. They just look at Arsenal. Who Arsenal were interested in? Okay, we'll go for them. I feel right. They're overloading the players, Chelsea, because they were expecting a band to come or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you see Sterling today, first game of the season, not in the squad, and his agent can't get a statement out fast enough.
Oh, Sterling. Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah.
See, he's another one I would have had at Arsenal, but not anymore.
No,
I was.
I think his agent possibly is a bad egg.
Yeah.
Whether the player himself is, I don't know. But when an agent does that straight away, you haven't played a game, first game of the season, you're not in the squad, and you go run into the press straight away with a statement.
Was Mudryk playing?
He was on the bench. I don't think he got any minutes.
Was he on the bench? Yeah.
Look, players like Sterling, Mudryk, when we didn't get him, I was so happy, right?
I was gutted.
Because I don't know what it is, but I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, we got rid of Aubameyang because of his poor attitude. Why are you going to have those players? And Arteta's very, very big about harmony in the dressing room, right? They're not going to bring harmony in the dressing room, them players. They're really, really not.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, just I appreciate the amount of time this podcast has flew. It's my first ever time hosting, but no, honestly, I've just put a message into the group chat just saying how well it's went and how great you guys have been. So at the start of the podcast, I asked a question.
Yeah.
Name me 3 players who have been the most underappreciated by the Arsenal fans in the Emirates era.
Yeah, I was going to have one in my head straight away. I'm going to say Nacho Monreal.
Okay.
Guy who always gave us all longevity. And I don't think we really appreciated how good he was while he was here. So yeah, he'd be the one that kind of jumps off the page to me, that a very solid, very dependable left back, played in a couple of cup winning teams. That'd be one that kind of jumps off the page to me as a guy who never let us down. But again, probably similar to, and United fans are killing me for this, saying this, comparing him to someone like Dennis Irwin. Always 7 out of 10. Yeah. Never really put in a terrible performance. But I think they're generally the type of guys that we as fans don't appreciate until long after they've finished up. So that'd be one for me, anyways.
Any which other 2? Have you got another 2? Or?
I've got one who I feel like we didn't treat him very well, but I think it was also part of his own fault. Mesut Ozil.
Yeah.
The reason Mesut Ozil loves Arsenal, even now, right? And to be honest, you talk about beasts. I'd love to see him in his current state of affairs go up against Ian Haaland, to be honest.
Yeah.
The man that we've seen him, he's apparently going to represent Turkey in the next international competitions for bodybuilding now.
Yeah.
Right. The reason I say that is because when you go to the games and you don't see this on telly, he's quite lazy. Like, he would be a bit like, oh, there's a squirrel. Like, there's no reading the game and running here, there, and where you need to be. But I was all about, you're a waste of space, you're a useless. I used to round my dad going to him, like, you only like him because he's Turkish. Like, that would be the conversation I'd have. When he left, I think it was his last season, during the season with COVID. Right. He did something for Arsenal which really made me change my opinion. And I thought, you know what? We don't appreciate this man enough. Do you know the story about the Gunnosaurus?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the thing. For those that don't know, they were going to get rid of the Gunnosaurus. And Mesut Ozil was like, what are you doing? And agreed to pay his wages for 5 years for the club to keep him. Now, apparently, this is the season where that money runs out. He did actually pay the club the money.
Yeah.
And I think that's all. They're not going to get rid of him. Like, everyone loves him,
Yeah.
But the fact that he stopped and went, no, you can't get rid of this. I will pay out my own money. Yeah. To me, was like, you love this club, because most people wouldn't even think of doing that, And I don't know. It just made me think. And when Spurs were doing their whole thing with City last season, he was having rows with people on Twitter about how disgusting they were about coming out to Spurs. And he trolls as well. And now
big time.
From someone with a mixed heritage background, and the language Turkish doesn't translate very well into English, the fact that he's been able to adopt the English sense of humor to be able to do this to people, I think is incredible. Because let me promise you this, when my dad tells a joke, it takes about 20 minutes to get to the punchline, right? So the fact that he's, to me, I think we definitely didn't treat him very well, and he was very underappreciated. But I also think it was partly his fault because he was bloody lazy as a footballer. That's my one, Mesut Ozil.
David, for you?
Yeah, I wrote them down, actually. And my first one I did put down was Monreal, just like Mark there.
Well,
and you're right.
Great
It
minds.
was based. Yeah,
Our foods
you're right.
rarely differ.
Totally underrated. No one even mentions him, and he was definitely, like you say, a 7 out of 8 kind of like player. But because you put him down, I've wrote a few others. So I've put Podolski down because I quite liked him.
Podolski, yeah.
I loved him. I love Podolski.
It's such an underrated, such a great left foot. Always subbed. That was the problem.
Always subbed.
Yeah, always subbed on the 70th minute. We know what Wenger used to be like, 70th minute, but totally underrated player, really good player.
Any more?
What about you?
I've got a couple. Yeah, I've got a couple. Mine's is Bellerin.
Bellerin, yeah, another
I really liked him. I heard last night, because I mentioned that last night, but seemingly when he turned to vegan, that's when his form dipped, etc., and Arsenal fans went against him a bit. I don't know how true that is, but so that was one. But one of the greatest goals I have ever seen in world football,
I know
and it's
who's
Oh,
not
coming
just
here.
because of Giroud.
Yeah.
Do you know another player that I think we only had him for a season? He was on loan, and I loved him, right? And everyone used to look at me like I was mad. Yossi Benayoun. I loved him when he came to us. Remember, that was the year we got Arteta as a player. Like, we had some really weird, like, 11 signings, and we got Yossi Benayoun. And do you know what? Yeah. But I remember thinking he was all right, you know. And then I think he went back to Chelsea and then just hardly ever played. Yeah.
Another one. Yeah. Another one for me would be Leno. He only got bought for a couple of million, and
that is 100% true. Yeah.
I think he was underappreciated. It's a hard question, though, isn't it? I had to answer within. I had to answer that question within 30 seconds. I was the first person, and they're like, "Mark, what's your take on this?" And I'm like, "Wow." So it was difficult.
They threw you under the bus there, Mark.
Yeah, they did. They certainly did. This has been an absolutely unbelievable podcast. My first time hosting. I certainly want to do more. 1 hour and 45 minutes, so I don't want to take up any more of your time. However, before we go, where can we find you? Give us your plugs, give us what you're doing for your streams, your Twitter handles, whatever, what you've got coming up next.
So I've just launched my channel. We'll Sing It in the North Bank. I will put I'm trying to think where I could put that for people to find me. I'm over on Twitter. You can find me at Lambeth Walk 2211. And yeah, I want to be able to do like little streams like before the games. I want to be able to do the sort of roundup after the games. I want to be able to sort of do what we're doing here. Just really sort of get out there and get another voice out there, because I think that there's quite a lot of people doing it. But I do think there's a lot of people that do it that are unlike how can I put this? There are a lot of people that do these podcasts that don't actually go. And like people said to me the other day, you're in a prime situation. You've had your season ticket for so long. You've always gone to the games. You've got quite level-headed takes on things. You should set up a channel. And I'm all like, oh, should I do it? Should I do it? And then everybody's given me like really positive responses to things that I've been doing. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting it out there a bit more.
Hopefully we'll get you back on this stream a lot more. You've been fantastic tonight, so I really appreciate it.
Anytime you want me here, just let me know. Anytime.
Paul will be watching, so you'll definitely be in touch. Mark, where do we find you, bro?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Dunningmark, or X as it's currently known. For Elon
Musk. Showing your age. Just showing your age, bro.
Yeah, that's essentially. I don't have half as much going on as Aish does, but that's where you can find me. If you want.
Thanks so much.
No obligations.
Thanks so much for coming on.
No problem at all.
Great.
No problem.
David, where could we find you?
Hitchin, SG. What's my postcode? SG. What number is it? Hold on.
We don't want to know about what pub you're in, Hitchin, bro.
I don't want no stalkers. No. I mean, I'm on Twitter. I don't use it that often, to be honest. But it's David Marr, MARR 74, or you can find me on. I use Instagram more. It's David Elvis Isaguna 74.
Fantastic. Guys, thanks so much for your time tonight. Great topics, and you smashed it. It's been a brilliant podcast. I really appreciate it. To all the listeners, thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, put on the notifications, and hopefully see you on the next one, guys.
Thank you.